half ago, I had to schedule a Skype meeting with a pretty senior manager in San Francisco. So she added Amy, our personal assistant, and asked her to find time for us to schedule the meeting. And then started this long mail thread that you're probably all familiar with, trying to find a good time, which wasn't easy because both of us are very busy, and the time zone differences made it even more complicated. And we had this long mail thread, and I was trying to be very nice and polite and say thank you and sorry all the time. And after like 4 or 5 ping pongs of emails, I scrolled down and actually noticed Amy's signature. And only then I realized that Amy is actually a bot. And that made me realize that if I fell for that, then something really is changing. So hi, my name is Shira Weinberg. I'm a product manager in Microsoft working on Cortana, which is a kind of a bot. And today I'm going to talk about the bot revolution. What does that mean? Why is this happening now? And a bit about what we're doing in Microsoft around bots. But let's start with a very basic question. What is a chatbot? A chatbot is a computer program that simulates a user and can chat with us as if it was a real user. Lately, we are seeing a huge hype around chatbots. But why is this happening, and why is this happening now? There are 2 changes that are happening these days that create this revolution. The first one is the rise of messaging applications. If you have at least one messaging application installed on your phone other than SMS, please raise your hand. If you have at least 2, please keep your hand up. 3, 4, 5. So as you can see, we're using messaging a lot. I personally have 6 applications, and I actually use each of these. And it's not only our feeling. The number says the same thing as well. You can see that messaging is the fastest growing online behavior, and it passed social networks. Actually, in the middle of 2015, messengers took over social media. So for example, in this graph, we can see the active users in the top 4 messaging applications and the top 4 social networking applications. And we can see that the messaging applications, the rise is much more extreme. The second change that is happening is around AI, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is no news. It's something we're all familiar with. A lot of books have been written about AI and movies that were created about AI. But something is changing now, because AI is becoming a commodity. It's no longer just a vision. It's something that we're all starting to use in our day-to-day lives, with products and services like Amazon's Alexa and Apple's Siri and Microsoft's Cortana. These products and devices can actually help us. They understand what we need. They can provide actual value and help us whenever we need something from them. So AI is no longer a vision. So with those 2 changes that are happening, it makes a lot of sense to start creating chatbots and move our services to chatbots that will use the messaging applications, since the users are already there, and chat with the users. And they will use AI in order to be able to chat with the users. So let's see a few examples for some interesting bots. The first one is Socialize. Socialize is a Chinese bot that was created by Microsoft in China. She only speaks Chinese, and she has a personality of a teenage girl, so she's very nice and fun to chat with. And she doesn't provide any specific value, but she can chat about anything in the world with the user. And we see that users are actually chatting with her. And she holds conversations of up to 26 messages, which means that users are really engaged. And they also say things like, I love you, and they tell her secrets. And that's crazy because they know she's a bot. Another example is Tay. Have you heard about Tay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tay is an interesting bot. Socialize worked very well in China, and a similar bot was created in Japan and works very well as well. So we decided to try that in the US market in English. And we used the same technology that was used to create Socialize, and trained it using data that is publicly available on the web in English. But apparently, people on the web are not always so nice. And pretty soon, Tay became an unpleasant bot, as you can see some examples. 2 days after Tay has shipped, she was taken down. And this is a tweet from the day that Tay shipped, which I pretty much like. Tay went from humans are super cool to full Nazi in less than 24 hours, and I'm not at all concerned about the future of AI. So as Satya, our CEO, said himself, we're back to the drawing board. We're trying to understand why it worked so well in other markets, but it didn't work in the US market. And what we need to do to change that and that we won't repeat this mistake in the future. Another example is Facebook M. M is actually a hybrid. It's a combination of AI and humans, which means that if I ask M something, the AI part will try to answer. But if it doesn't know the answer, it will fall back to a human. As a user, you won't even know if you're talking to AI or to a real human. It's also very useful for Facebook because they can learn what users need and what users ask M. And if they don't know the answer, they can see what people ask and which questions arrive to humans, and add those abilities to AI. Another example for, it's not really a chatbot, but it's a voice-based bot, is Amazon's Alexa. I guess most of you are familiar with this device. This is Amazon Echo. It's a speaker that does many things that a great speaker can do, but it also has a special service of a personal assistant called Alexa. And you can talk to Alexa. It doesn't have a screen, but you can talk to her and she will reply. You can ask her questions like the weather. You can ask her to add things to your shopping list, etc. Another example, another category of bots is scheduling bots, like Amy, which I mentioned in the beginning. This is Amy. Mikan, which is actually an Israeli startup that was acquired a few months ago by Doodle. We have Julie Desk and Clara, and these are just a few examples from this area of scheduling. And of course, we also have some cat bots, a lot of cat bots actually. These are just from Telegram. I can ask them to provide a picture of a cat or a picture of a dog and a picture of a cat and a flower, etc. So as you're probably starting to realize by now, we're starting to see a lot of bots. And very soon we'll be flooded with bots because we're only in the beginning. And we're going to have a problem, a discovery problem. Because how will I find the bot that I need whenever I need it? How will I know if a specific bot is what I need and if it's good for me? That's actually not a new problem. We've seen that in the past. In the beginning of the internet, before we had search engines, we had the same problem. We had a lot of websites, and it wasn't easy to find the websites that we need. It wasn't easy to understand if a website is good for me, if I can count on it. And then came the search engines and solved this problem. Because today I can very easily search for a website, find a website that will help me, and understand if that's a good website or not. We also see a similar thing with app stores and mobile applications. Because I can easily search an app store to find a relevant application. I can see the reviews. I can see how many people downloaded the application. So I can tell if that's a good application. So I think it's pretty clear that the next big thing around bots will be bot stores. And we're already starting to see some of these. This, for example, is Botlist. It's a website that is trying to be an app store for bots. Telegram, which is a messaging application, have their own bot store. And actually, within this bot store, they have a bot of the bot store that you can chat with over Telegram and ask for bot recommendations or search for bots. Slack also have their own page of brilliant bots, where you can also filter and sort by popularity or other criteria. So in Microsoft, we're also starting to do some things around that. And I'll talk more about that in a few slides, assuming we will have additional slides. So Satya himself said that bots are the new applications. He said that in the Build conference that happened at the end of March and the beginning of April. Build is an annual conference that happens in San Francisco. It's a conference that Microsoft holds for developers. And this year's conference was actually very exciting for me personally, because there were a few announcements that are very related to what our team does. And also, I got to be there at the audience for the first time. And it was very, very exciting to be there at the room. And I also had to support our live demo, which is exciting and scary at the same time. I quickly go over the announcements that we had, even though we don't have the slides yet. The first announcement was the ability to create bots for Skype, which means that every developer or every service can easily create a bot that will work in Skype. The next announcement was the bot framework that allows developers to easily create bots that will work not only in Skype, but on other platforms as well, like Slack and Facebook Messenger, and many more. And the announcement that was most close to my heart was Cortana in Skype. Who knows what Cortana is? Oh, pretty nice. So Cortana is Microsoft's personal assistant, digital personal assistant. She's available on Windows, on Windows Phone, on iOS, and Android. And soon she'll be available in Skype as well. So when I think about Cortana, I try to think about a real personal assistant. And what would a real personal assistant do? And then I try to think, how can Cortana mimic this behavior? Because we want Cortana to act as if she was a real personal assistant. So since users are moving to messaging, we think it makes a lot of sense to move Cortana to messaging as well, and allow users to interact with Cortana in messaging applications. But I wanted to verify that, and I did a small research. And I interviewed 20 personal assistants, most of them actually in the US, because I didn't want to be biased to the Israeli markets, and in different companies. And we saw that indeed, most of the communication that personal assistants have with their managers, other than face-to-face communication, is done in SMS and messaging applications. The applications can vary based on the market. So in Israel specifically, it's more WhatsApp. In the US, it was many times in SMS, actually. But that can change between different markets. So we saw that indeed it makes sense to go and move Cortana to add Cortana to messaging applications as well. And we decided to start with Skype. We also defined a few guidelines that will help us. The first is that it's the same Cortana. She's available everywhere. Just like a real personal assistant, I can talk to her face-to-face, I can send her an email, I can call her or send her a text message. It will be the same person. She will know the same things about me. And she'll probably behave in a very similar way in all those platforms. And the same is Cortana. It's the same Cortana that already knows me. She knows me from my other devices. She can now communicate with me in another channel. A good personal assistant doesn't always have the answer for me. But if she doesn't know the answer, she will find the best expert that can help me. And the same way is Cortana. If she doesn't know the answer, she will find an expert. And in this case, the expert will be a bot. So for example, let's say I ask Cortana to get me some coffee. She doesn't know how to do that yet. But she will find the right bot for me that can help me. For example, it could be a Starbucks bot. And she will hand off the conversation to that bot. Cortana is also the one that knows me. She holds my state and my context. And she can use that when handing off the conversation to the bot. So for example, if we're talking about the Starbucks bot, then Cortana will hand off the conversation and will tell the Starbucks bot that I usually get a tall soy latte, and my shipping address if delivery is needed. And in the future, she might even pay for me. So the question that you probably have in mind by now is, how real is this? Are they really here to stay, or is it just a fad that everyone is talking about? So my personal opinion is that bots are really here to stay. We're all moving to messaging. I use messaging all the time to interact with my friends, with my family, with my colleagues. And I actually prefer to use services that are available there as well, because I'm already using those services. I'm already using messaging applications. Already today, I use email to schedule my Pilates classes and to schedule my dog's doctor appointments. And I would prefer services that I can talk to and communicate with in WhatsApp, for example, or in Skype, or in a messaging application that I'm already using. So it makes a lot of sense to start moving our services to these platforms. It doesn't mean that websites are going away or mobile applications are going away. It's just another platform that is becoming more and more relevant. Thank you.